attention.
Ms. Vedder.
Here.
Mr. Steingart.
Here.
Mr. Ruiz. Mrs. Edwards.
Here.
Mr. Sorensen.
Here.
I do believe we have a quorum, so it's now time to begin the discussion here. And since there is no discussion item at this time and/or presentations, we're moving right into reports. So I would start with Kathy.
Okay, the bids that we did for this month were bagged rock salt, disposal of scrap metal, which we got a price of $273.01 a ton. That's where the county gets paid. Replacement of parts for automobiles and light trucks, replacements for medium and heavy duty trucks, and dairy products, which is ice cream only this month, and the milk is going back out again because the prices were too high.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions regarding the purchasing reports? All right, moving right into Board of Elections.
Hello, everyone. 2013 election went well.
Still counting?
Yeah. We actually used about 12 Spanish ballots. And we had minimal equipment issues. Everything went pretty well. We are working to try and relieve the problem with the markers bleeding through the ballot situation. We're working with the state board. That seems to be our biggest issue, and we are required to use what the state board certifies as far as ballots and markers and so on and so forth. So we are trying to work through that with them and get them to come up with a more reasonable program that has helped us not have the problems we did have. We haven't certified the election yet. We do have 22 voters, 29 that were challenged. 22 of those 29 voted absentee in the town of Coshocton. Until that is settled in court, we won't know whether we are to count those 22 votes or not. So the court date is set for the 17th, which is Tuesday, and County Attorney Sam is representing us. Ann and I had to make a determination on that. It was a split determination, which means, from our point of view, the votes would count. Then whoever objected to those voters, or the persons who were objected to, have the option to go to court, get a court date, and have a judge hear it and either agree with our determination, override it, or do whatever, set case law involved in that. So that's on October 17th. It's involving the second homeowner.
Tuesday.
No, December 17th. Second homeowner type of a situation. It's a cross between the summer colony, second home type of a thing. So that's where we're at. And, well, yes, that.
Just at this time of year, people assume that it's very quiet in our office. It may be, but we spend most of December catching up. Once the cutoff date takes place in October for registrations, we can't enter any changes. So we have a backlog of several hundred registrations and changes that all have to be entered, double-checked, and filed, and that's what we're doing this time of year, in addition to gearing up for village elections. And we were already well into the petition process in the villages of Monticello, Bloomingburg, Wurtsboro, and Liberty, and those elections that we run in March. And just to follow up with respect to the Spanish language access, we did have a conference call this morning with the Attorney General's office, which felt pretty much like the third degree. Again, they wanted a lot of statistical information that we couldn't give them because we aren't certified and don't have numbers available to us, but overall they were very pleased with the progress that our office has made in complying with both the state and federal mandates.
You could have made a great pun and called it the Spanish Inquisition.
Yeah.
And you said you used 12 Spanish ballots. How many did you order?
We have, the minimum is 25.
We have to order 25 for 36 election districts, so.
25 for each of 36 districts.
Each of 36 election districts,
Wow,
right.
so what do you do with?
The 25 is the minimum
You
order.
really want to
can't-
know?
We have to
Same
keep
thing
them
with the
for
Christmas
two, we
tree.
have to keep the unused ballots for 2 years. That's state law.
If I could back up, you had stated something about second home. I thought it has to be considered your primary residence.
Well, election
in order
law
to
is
vote.
clear. The basic election law is clear that you have to use your primary residence for voting. what's happened is there's been case law over a period of years that has watered that down significantly. So we're at the point now where it's questionable whether if you own a second home that you would like to call your home, but because of work or whatever, can't have to live some elsewhere, they're allowing, to some degree, people to be able to choose where they want to vote. It's just questionable. Some of this stuff gets very borderline, whether it's like a bungalow colony type of a thing that we've dealt with in the past, or actually a second home that could be used as a year-round residence if you had the ability to do that. And that would be your choice if you could choose one or the other.
So the decision on Tuesday will really be invaluable to us in dealing with this issue, which will be ongoing
Right.
especially in a county like ours, where many people do make Sullivan County their second home, so.
So, help me understand something. If I was living in a temporary residence or whatever we're calling the bungalow colonies, or the various camps in the area, I could potentially make that my voting residence?
Well, we've had issues like that in the past, over the past 5-6 years. And a bungalow colony does not seem to meet the criteria. It's more of a seasonal type of a situation, and ownership usually isn't involved, and some of those things play into it. What we're dealing with, was pretty public here in this last election, was second home, and they're talking about a home that you could use probably as a year-round residence and would choose to if you could, and you have a significant tie with the community while you're here, and so on and so forth. So that's basically what's up in the air. There are two different issues. It's two different issues.
Well, I look forward to next month's report. Any questions regarding the report from Board of Elections? Okay, it's time for Cornell. Thank
How's
you.
everybody doing? It's Cora, happy birthday.
Thank you. It's on Saturday, and
Yeah.
Annie's is on Monday, and Janet's is on Monday, and then
Wow,
Fritz is
big
on
party.
Saturday, and Janet's is on Monday.
Mine's in June, just so you know.
We call this Extreme Sag.
Thank you, guys.
Just passed around my report. Just wanted to bring everybody up to date on the building. We've kind of still moving forward with the transfer with the Sullivan Funding Corp. We've got everything resolved with insurance, so Cornell actually has insurance on the building, and we actually got a pretty good donation from Mid-Hudson to help us out with that, so we're pretty happy about that. And we had a meeting this week. It looks like there's a couple fairly big donors that are prepared to commit $100,000, maybe $200,000 to the campaign. So we should be able to announce that over the next couple of weeks. But that was pretty encouraging news. And also, like I said before, we aim now to raise $1 million for the building. We originally thought about $500,000, but we're gonna go ahead and try for $1 million, tying in a lot of different in-kind donations as well. And putting it over, we decided to put it over a couple of years instead of just 1 year. So, this week, or actually tonight, we have our annual meeting, and BOCES is gonna be there to announce a partnership with Cornell. We've been working on 2 or 3 big projects with BOCES, but the one that we're most excited about right now, they actually came over yesterday and broke ground. We're gonna put in a small greenhouse. It's like a demonstration greenhouse in a hoop house, and try to show different scenarios of how we could extend the season. So instead of just having one big greenhouse, we'd have hoop houses, smaller, different styles of different techniques from Cornell to how to extend the season for growers, or homeowners and farmers. So Sullivan Renaissance and a couple other groups came together and gave us about $12,500 for that. And one of the goals is to make it something that others can emulate. So we have a $10,000 project that we can actually show people how to do it and help them get started on things like that. And then obviously the bigger greenhouses cost a lot more than that. But we're trying to get practical steps that farmers can actually come and try to model at their farms, or even smaller pieces of land.
And if
So
I
we're real excited about that.
If I recognize correctly, when I stopped over there yesterday, BOCES was there helping
Yeah.
with that. And the BOCES students, some of the students in, were learning something about the trade of how to build.
Yeah, exactly.
So I see that as a great learning tool besides the cooperation between the two buildings.
Yep, and the idea is that as we get it going, that BOCES will help run it as well, so it'll be a joint partnership throughout. And hopefully, to get that all going, then we could go to a, the dream is to build a bigger greenhouse. It's more of a traditional commercial greenhouse, but that's gonna take some time.
Great.
So, also I wanted to announce, we're doing a series of entrepreneurial classes. We did one last month. We had over 40 people attend. So we're gonna lay out a series of 6 different classes, all related to agriculture and small business development. And then Kitty helped out. We have a fellow, I guess, Tim McCossell, that's Kitty's friend, that's actually taught up at Cornell. And when we took the visit up early in the year, we connected to some of the work that he's done, and he's offered to come to Sullivan County and give this presentation. So through Kitty, and it's focusing on veterans and how they may get more involved with some of these entrepreneurial ventures and some of the work that Cornell's doing. So
And
I
that
want to thank Kitty for that.
veteran
and-
piece is an important piece.
Yeah.
For our vets coming back, that they learn that they could, if they don't have a job, that they could, if they were interested in building a business, how to do it. As I remember up at Cornell, that veteran boot camp was
Yep,
really inspiring.
exactly.
So I hope our vets in this county are able to get something off of that.
Yep.
to
And
build
Tim,
themselves.
Tim already committed to do it, and a professor that's worked with the different veterans class will actually come down and teach that first class.
That's great. So Jean, at the veterans thing,
I
make
heard,
sure.
I heard.
Most of the ones
we
we're
should
trying
try
to do
that
have
with
to
the
do with
college.
agriculture and the kitchen that we're launching, but we also
should
have
try that with
Heinrich
the
involved and
college, too,
others that will,
because they have programs
SBDC is
for
gonna be
veterans now
involved.
as well.
So obviously Cornell doesn't wanna get into the, small business development training as much, we just wanna keep it into the, ag
Yes,
and
I
other
think so.
stuff we're doing, and then share it with other groups that are also doing the business
Yeah.
training, including the college.
Thank you, I was gonna add that if you didn't.
Yep, so, Karen and I have been talking about all this, so, when they're done with our classes, they go to hers. Let's see, what else? Oh, Melinda Medall has accepted the shared position that we've been talking about. Really excited about that. She'll start on January 13th.
What's the salary
So,
for that? I'm sorry. I don't-
The salary's $48,000. So
And you pay
she's-
insurance?
Pardon?
Do you give them insurance?
Cornell's picking up all the benefits, retirement and insurance, yeah.
Yeah, that, we had discussed that the last couple of meetings, right?
Well, we had been listing it, and people were asking when we were gonna make the offer, and, we basically, the goal all along was to hire by January 1, so we're 2 weeks off, so we're really excited. Originally, she was gonna start in February, she moved it up to January 13th, so.
That's good news.
And she's been local, running the Delaware Highlands Conservancy for about 6 years. I think a lot of you know her in the room. We're really, I think she's a great fit. I mean, a little bit on the production ag side. She hasn't had a lot of experience with that, but we're gonna also hire a part-time production ag person to fit in the team there, so.
Great.
So anyways, thanks for your support on that. And then the red meat work, Cornell's continuing to be at the table to help find an operator.
Yes.
And like I said before, if you haven't stopped by the site, it turned out really amazing. Thanks to Ira and Walter and IDA for all the work that you guys have been doing. I mean, I think it looks great. Anyone that's skeptical, you just drive down there and look at it. And I think with the work we're doing now, we should have the operator in place for the spring. So, or at least the summer. We gotta get the building up next. And that's about it. We have our 99th annual meeting tonight. Everybody's invited, 7 p.m. And I think Scott's gonna come by. We got a proclamation from the governor yesterday in the mail, so we're excited about that. Scott's gonna read that. And we have Lee Talega, who's the state rep for USDA Rural Development, as a keynote speaker. And we're gonna twist his arm to make sure he's giving us more money.
Great.
So that's about it. Thanks a lot for all your
Thank you.
support. Happy holidays.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions of Cornell?
Same to you, Greg.
Yes, thank you.
How's
Thanks
the
for all
heat
your
working?
support.
How's the heat working?
The heat's on. Thank you.
Okay, I believe it's time for Dan with County Clerk.
I can give just a brief summary. We're watching the real estate activity quite closely in the clerk's office to see if there's an uptick, particularly in relation to the speculation that gaming might be coming into the area. So that's under watch. In terms of motor vehicles, somewhat of a surprise, the revenues are exceeding what I thought they would be. We were informed that there would probably be a downturn, but it appears as though we're on pace to break 700,000 again, which is a very good sign. And please ask your friends and neighbors to continue to do their transactions locally, because I think that's the difference.
Looks like all your pleading worked.
Some of it.
Done
All
really
yours
well.
as well. Thank
Done really
you.
well.
I just did mine a couple weeks ago.
You don't wanna go
Perfect,
online
thank you.
to register. People might not wanna go online to register because of other things going on the federal level. They might be afraid. Okay, Sullivan County College.
Hi, everyone. So, first of all, I decided to do a little bit of a different approach, and rather than give sort of an overall summary of what's been going on in the last couple of months, I wanted to talk a little bit about the 50th year campaign. And how many of you did
It was in
receive
the
I
this
got it in the
Democrat, it was in
paper.
the mail, it was
So
in the.
if you did not, if you do not have one, take
What one,
one.
Kitty?
If you do
No,
have
I
one,
haven't,
just
thank you. Okay.
pass them around, just
I
in
like
case.
that
So-
KISS was in there.
Isn't that fun?
Yes,
So,
Anybody want
uh,
extra?
I have one.
I'll take
I have
one.
it.
I have one.
Annie,
So we are embarking on a multi-year, 50-year annual
Where
campaign,
is
and the
it?
campaign will be
KISS.
for 3 areas.
Mine.
Scholarships is always a big
Gene
push
Simmons,
from our
he's in there.
foundation board members.
Mine.
And then the other
Okay.
area is to try to
He's a
continue to
graduate.
secure
Oh.
resources from the foundation
I
to
didn't know
continue to
that.
renovate the existing building. And then part of the campaign will include a push for the new facility. And the new facility that finally gelled at our last Board of Trustee meeting. And the title of the facility would be the Healthy World Studies and Tech Transfer Institute. And we have put into the hopper a $12.8 million grant, which some of you are very aware of, and I'm thankful that the county assisted us with support and a support for the project in general.
That was on the ninth, the deadline was extended to the ninth.
Yeah, we actually submitted on Saturday morning, just in case there were any bugaboos with
Yeah.
the email or the server. There was a bugaboo Friday night, we had to compress the file, but we successfully submitted Saturday, and it was due Monday. It is very competitive, so we're trying to not get our hopes up, but it would really accelerate the project. And the project is a blend of entrepreneurship education, food and beverage manufacturing practices and processes, and that would include services for small businesses and industry. That we would help them research, develop, and pilot projects on campus, and then ideally move to an 18-acre swath of land, start a business, and avail themselves of the Startup New York tax-free zone. So that's sort of the major thrust. The other piece of the grant relates to data, and it relates to the fact that there has been no greater collection of aggregate data in human history as what we have now, and it's only going to get bigger. So one little example that you can probably all relate to is when you shop online, there are marketers who are watching and counting every one of your clicks to try to figure out how your clicking patterns can be improved and get you to buy that product. That's an example of big data. There's more productive examples of big data occurring in agriculture. There are sensors now that help us to collect data on weather patterns. We can do that much better than ever before, and which is good because weather patterns are getting much more unpredictable. So it's nice to have better ways of collecting data about weather. Humidity sensors that you can put in a backpack that then you can go insert the sensor into a soil, as a soil sample, and through a wireless connection, that scientific data is transferred to someone who's a data technician, who's figuring out if there's anything that needs to be done due to what that data about that soil entails, for example. More data about water. The fact, water is a huge problem worldwide. It's not a problem in Sullivan County. So the other element of the grant that I think you should be very excited about, and I'm hoping it starts us off on a fantastic 51st year, is baccalaureate degrees that will be offered in Sullivan County. I know that this county is very interested in trying to develop those pathways. And in the past, the college has done some 4-year degree pathways. They've been relatively short-lived. And part of the reason that happens is that you have to have good enrollment or the universities can't keep funding it, especially when those universities are not located in the county. So we have to have programs that are really good and that are sustainable for the long term. where we landed, and so there are 4 higher ed partners in our grant. SUNY Morrisville, which is big on ag and big on ag entrepreneurship. SUNY IT, which is, they're the information technology specialists. They've committed to doing these 2+2 partnerships in this facility, which is great that we have that commitment. And then Cornell Cooperative Extension, Greg wrote a great letter of support, and also the New York State Water Institute, which is housed at Cornell, and they committed to putting a scholar in residence in Sullivan County, probably a graduate student getting a PhD, and that person would study things related to regional water issues and uses, and students and faculty of SUNY Sullivan could assist in that and get some really great hands-on education around water issues and water resources. So that, it's very exciting. The other thing that's built in, and by the way, the overall umbrella is healthy people, healthy food shed, healthy environment, and healthy economy. That's sort of the overarching theme. And it all had to be related to Startup New York. So it was a fun project, and we'll just cross our fingers. But the board agreed that they want us to move forward with the project anyway. They just know it'll take a lot longer without the help of a $13 million SUNY 2020 grant, and that's okay. I'm good with that. I can be patient. But we do have a concept now, and it's I think we've articulated it clearly and well, so that we can begin to move it forward. So there you go.
Can I ask a question?
Thank you.
Sure.
I'm not clear, should the grant be awarded, what is the county's commitment?
At this point, and what I wrote in the grant is that the county was willing to explore a commitment of $3 million, but in the budget, I wrote in that that's only if needed. Our goal would be to secure the matches all through private and federal donations. That is the goal. So the county is only committed to exploring a bond in 2015-16 of $3 million if needed. But I'm really gonna try hard to avoid that, because I know that the county is just as strapped for cash as the college. And I think property taxes in this county are very high. So hopefully we won't need that. There are a number of federal grants that we've identified just this week that we're gonna go for, through the EDA as well. The other portion of the building, $6 million would come from the SUNY bucket that's already allocated for us, which had been designated for the CAST building. And that leaves $6 million that we would find in private, federal, or county donations. The $12.8 million, and this is what's really wonderful about this particular grant, does not require a cash match. It encourages a match, but the match it encourages can be in kind over a multi-year period. So we can write off faculty salaries, staff salaries, energy. I mean, it wouldn't take long to get the match over a 5-year period for that $12.8 million.
And the operating expenses that we pay every year, the $4 million, would not be in any way, shape, or form considered part of that match?
No way. Unfortunately, the county match is of course extremely helpful, but the statute for community colleges requires sort of this 33%, 33%, 33% split between tuition, state, and county match. Right now, tuition is really covering a big chunk, which is a problem. We were one of the only SUNY colleges who this year did not raise tuition for families, and I'm very proud of that, right? We kept it at 0. And part of that is I think we're outpricing a number of families out of higher education, and it's falling on that middle class, even people who don't qualify for enough grants, so they're either stuck with the loan or they don't go to school. And the more you increase the tuition, that's the market you're pricing out of your local community college. So we don't know if we're gonna be able to accomplish that again, but we're going to try. We're gonna try to keep tuition flat. The other thing that does is that gets us more in line with our competitors, Ulster and Orange. Because we got to a point in the last 5 years where we were surpassing them, and that's not good, when OC is a little too close for comfort. So, anyway.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, wait, I got one more thing real quick.
Please.
I'm just gonna pass this out. So we're almost meeting our enrollment target. What would really help if friends and families avail themselves of our online winter intercession discount courses.
That was in the paper too, wasn't it?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
I-
but
yeah,
pass it out to
I-
friends and families. And
I don't
you'll
have
be
any.
hearing some ads on this.
I don't have any friends.
There's not a lot of courses offered, but most of these probably all of these courses are transferable. I should have, they're transferable, it just depends as what. But one of the students types to think about is if you've got kids that are home from another SUNY college, let's say they're freshmen or sophomores at SUNY
Oswego's a good one, yeah.
Okay, they're home. They can take this class, they can take it a lot cheaper. They should check with their college and make sure they need the class for their particular degree program. But families can save a lot of money if they avail themselves of even 1 or 2 classes in our winter and summer intersession every year. So I just wanted to sort of highlight that for you today.
I had done that.
Yeah, pardon me?
I had done that when I was home from Oswego.
Yeah.
I took a couple of courses and
That's
got
great.
credit.
Yep. So thank you.
We're all excited
Thank
about
you.
the
Thank
history
you.
of paranormal in America.
Yeah.
Fun, see? Sign up.
All you gotta do is sit
Bye,
here.
Jonathan.
All you gotta do is sit at this table for a couple
That's
of
what
minutes.
I did. Maybe we can get a better
Exactly.
understanding of this table if we take this course.
I think not.
I just have one
I still want my
comment.
planetarium.
Right, I me too.
No.
I want that
Excuse me.
too. I'm not kidding you.
I just wanted to say that when I went to the, award ceremony last month before, whenever that was, it was a really great history of, the college, and I learned a lot about, why it is the way it is now, that I didn't know before
Oh,
that.
the Men Who Make a Difference?
That was the awards, yeah.
Yeah, it was
And,
wonderful. It's a very nice event.
And, yeah, just to be able to get
Yeah.
a kind of snapshot, I don't know if that's something that could be put on a YouTube video or something like that, just like a very quick 50th anniversary, they can, make donations online or something like that, but it really helps to know, its origins and how it grew. I thought that was a really
Yeah.
great segment.
It was very touching, I thought, that event. And and for those of you who don't know, we alternate. We do Women Who Make a Difference and then Men Who Make a Difference in it every other year. But it was really fun for me because some of the award recipients, they've been around a very long time, and some of the men who gave the awards to the recipients were around for a very long time, and it was just so much fun to hear their perceptions about how the college really began and the history of the college. It was really fun. So, and thank you for those who were there. So.
Okay.
Thank you. That's the conclusion of reports, so it's time to move on to resolutions. And the first resolution is to authorize award and execution of the contract with VFP Inc.
Jonathan. Alan.
Is there any discussion on this award? Seeing no discussion, I would call for a vote. In
All
favor?
in favor? 5-0.
Thank you. Moving on to authorize and award the execution of the contract with SJB Services, Inc.
Moved by Jonathan, seconded by Alan.
Is there a discussion on this? It's time to call the question on that. All in favor?
5-0.
Okay, we're moving into the authorization and submission of the Local Records Management Improvement Fund grant, application of the New York State Archives on behalf of Sullivan County.
Moved by Jonathan, seconded by, Alan.
Dan, do you want to explain this?
Yeah, just briefly, the district attorney's office is looking to digitize a lot of its old records, whether it be misdemeanor files, felony files. There's a dearth of available space for storage. We've got the dome filled. You walk through the district attorney's offices, you'll see stacks of files, cases of files all along the hallways. We're looking to reduce those numbers by putting in this grant. The reason why I'm here is by virtue of being the county clerk, I'm also the records management officer, so I will be submitting it on behalf of the district attorney's office as well as working closely with the grants people.
So
And
you're suggesting that once you digitalize this, we can get rid of those boxes?
well, you can, but what's somewhat unique in the district attorney's office, well, that's just, it's a dollar amount. The cap is $75,000. We're hopeful we'll get up to $75,000. But what's unique in the district attorney's office is they need the permission from the appellate division to get rid of those records. So we're
whether you
looking at all this
digitalize
in
it
the
or
process.
not, we don't necessarily get rid of those files.
You've just got a different form for the original record.
But you'll have both forms.
No,
No.
you'll get rid of the,
You
hard
can get
paper,
rid of
yeah.
the hard
Paper,
copy.
right.
They may be able to, for example, get rid of transcripts and things of that sort, they will still have to potentially hold on to evidence
Evidence, yes.
submitted during the court proceeding.
Yeah, but whatever they allow you to
Paper.
digitalize, you can
Absolutely.
get
And
rid of the
you-
paper.
That's
You'll
right,
have
you
that much less
consolidate,
paper.
so they're gonna have a combination kind of situation
Well,
over there.
thank you for the clarification on that. Is there any other questions,
Yeah,
Cora?
Danny, the 75 goes toward the manpower of doing the scanning, or?
It would be the scanning.
Okay.
Hopefully,
I wanna do
you'll have a
something.
vendor on board, so that'll eliminate the need for any of our manpower.
Because we've been using the interns in the summer to go down there and,
I don't know that the district attorney office would want anyone from the outside.
No, that's who's been doing it.
Right,
They've been
right.
going down, but it's just, it's like barely even
He's
making a
gotta
dent.
first identify those cases that he would like, subject to the,
So the 75's for an outside vendor, I just need to be
Yes, it
clear.
would be, yes.
Okay, got it.
Is there any other questions regarding this? Okay, I'm asking for a vote on this. All in favor?
5-0.
Thank you. And the final resolution is to reinstate and set the salary for managing family services attorney in the Department of Family Services. Can I have a motion? Okay, and Cora seconds it. Is there any questions regarding this issue?
Hey, Randy, can you give us a brief?
An overview
Yeah,
of it?
please, yeah,
It's the position is currently not in the 2013 budget, nor is it in the proposed 2014 budget. We did submit a budget reduction document with regard to the property tax cap issue. I believe that document included potentially $600,000 in reductions, mostly through increase of revenue, but the creation of this position is within that document. So however that would play out in the budget process. But the position is reinstating the managing family services attorney in the Department of Family Services. It was a position that was formerly in DSS or DFS, and this position would oversee the legal department and get involved in all aspects of Department of Family Services, whether it be child protective, foster care, adoption, child support enforcement and collection, and also resource recovery. There, in two program areas in child support and enforcement, there's $32 million in funds that are to be recovered and paid to the department. And in the resource, there is in excess of $3.7 million, and probably about 5 or 6 years ago, that number was $1.2 million. So the work has just not been done in terms of repayment agreements, recovery. It gets a bit complicated with I think Fair Credit Debt Reduction Reporting Act, and as we are a bill collector, et cetera. And it's work that will get done that has not necessarily been getting done, and it will give us additional resources in the legal department.
I was saying, I mean, Cora mentioned last week when we had this discussion, I forget who's me about the child protective service, but like, there's no issues, is there?
As
As far as the judges and his children and the, I don't know, 'cause Cora mentioned, like I said last week, about the issues with the children, but there's no issues in court, or are there?
As far as, I mean, some of it, I don't know that it's in a public meeting discussing what potential
Well, Cora
issues
mentioned it
there.
last week, so let me move on to my next question then. So you're gonna, a person is gonna work under you, correct?
Correct.
You're gonna hire them,
Correct.
and are they civil service?
The position was formerly civil service, management position and with civil service.
So
That's
won't-
my understanding.
Oh, so it will be.
Right.
So then you'll have to get somebody off the list, how is that gonna work? Do it
Right
all-
now, I do not believe there is a list, so the person would be in the position provisionally,
Okay, and
and
then
then
they'll take a
subject
test?
to
Okay.
either having their, experience graded or a test.
Now, you said, do you have somebody in mind for the position?
Absolutely not.
Oh, okay.
Excuse me, Sam, if I go back to this, I thought, correct me please, this position, as far as provisional civil service, it would not necessarily be a civil service position, was my understanding. It potentially would be at the will of the department. Would you elaborate on that discussion that we had?
Yeah, presently, it is classified, in the classified civil service as a competitive position. There is a civil service job description for it. If the commissioner requests, the personnel officer can make a recommendation to Albany that we exempt it from the competitive class. What they would do or not, I don't know. You can make that recommendation. If Albany disagrees, it stays in the competitive class. If they agree, then it comes out of the competitive class and it becomes an at-will employee. That would be within the province of the personnel officer.
So, but how long would that take? I mean, we can hire somebody to meet, but how long does that normally take?
Well,
Months?
Ironically, at the seminars on Monday, technically, the state requires that if you fill with a provisional, that you must go through a test and a selection and an appointment of somebody as a permanent competitive civil service person within 9 months of appointing the provisional. So you'd be, in effect, extending that 9 months by making the application to have it removed from the competitive class. What the state would do, I can't tell you. So we've been successful with some in the past. We've been unsuccessful with others in the past.
And my last question to Katie, is this time sensitive?
I think it's important to have this at this point in time in order to know where the Department of Social Services is going in their budgetary plan for next year, and that's the reason why I thought it was important to come here today, so that we could have it passed, if it's going to pass, in full board, so that the Department of Family Services would know where they're going for their 2014 budget, and that's why I would suggest it is time sensitive. Now, in another regard, Sam, help me out with the discussion of if there was an alternate world and all of legal moved underneath your department, how would that play out, please? Because your department, please clarify, does not have civil service employees at the present. And that was the sticking point, as I recall, in the discussions that we had regarding this. Your department then would have, if everything moved under your world, then you'd have civil service employees and non-civil service employees, which you saw as problematic if it went in that direction.
It's just, from an administrator's standpoint, it's not the ideal situation, obviously. You asked me 3 questions last Thursday. As I told you, one-on-one, when I was in Saratoga on Monday at the county attorney's meeting, I asked for permission to poll them. We had most of the county attorneys in the state, somewhere between 70, and I didn't count the hands, I just, looked at the showing. Somewhere between 70 and 75% of the county attorney's offices in the state have a family court unit within the county attorney's office, as opposed to a separate DSS legal unit within the division. That's how it was done when I was county attorney down in Westchester. We did that. The advantages to it are that you get some cross-utilization. You've got, you train almost everybody in the office to be able to pitch in if you need to, and those people are available to do non-family court work on days that they're light and they can pick up reviewing a contract or what have you. If you move in a unit that already has civil service status, there are some limitations on that, obviously, because the civil service status already has job descriptions built in that don't quite fit in with the county attorney's office. If you did it, if you decided to do it over a period of years, by attrition, you'd ultimately wind up with a family court unit that was all, they were all assistant county attorneys.
It will be at will.
They would all be at will. And what you do when you have one of those units is, the person who is really the senior person in the office, whether you use the title that the commissioner already has on the table or some other title, is somebody that the county attorney and the commissioner agree is the appropriate person, who interfaces directly, either the commissioner interfaces directly with the county attorney or with that individual. And the other thing we have here that's a little bit of a problem is geography, physical facilities. You want your people who are in court to be close to the court if possible. On the other hand, he's got a lot of caseworkers and social workers in Liberty who would like to have direct access to the attorney that they're ultimately going to be dealing with. That creates somewhat of an issue. The commissioner and I have discussed that, and one of the things you would do if that group was ultimately moved into the county attorney's offices, we take a pretty good look at the court scheduling and see what we can work with the judges as well, so that some people don't have to be here every day and can be scheduled, so some of them can be up in Liberty dealing with the caseworkers and the social workers before cases come down here. This back and forth from Monticello to Liberty is a little bit of an issue, even in this wonderful day and age of email and phone and all the rest. A lot of that you really want to do eyeball to eyeball if you're talking to witnesses. That's the type of thing where a county attorney and the commissioner would have to work cooperatively to make sure it worked. I think it's possible. I know it's possible because I've done it. But that's going to be up to your board if that's what you ultimately want to do. It won't be, if you just do decide to do it, it will not be as efficient in the early stages as it will be after more people are assistant county attorneys and don't have the limitation of the civil service, because if I ask them to go do a contract, I'm asking him to work out a title, in effect.
So in other words, you're saying it would be better if it was, the attorney was directly under the commissioner?
It's not a matter, I don't think there's a better in that choice, Mr. Benson, I really don't. I think it's a matter of priorities and how you look at it. If the commissioner wants, for example, me to look over every case directly and things of that sort, it works out better being in the county attorney's office. Most county attorney's offices in the state do it that way, because ultimately, somebody gets sick in DSS legal, you're down to 2 people. You don't have the additional bodies you can throw at it, which you do have if they're in the county attorney's office, because you have other people who you cross-train to go into court from time to time.
One last question I would have before I ask Cindy what her question is if it changed to moving under your auspices, if that was the direction, didn't you say something about a local law would have to change from what was, because at the present time
Happy holidays,
it's
Carl.
following under something different? Am I incorrect?
Yeah, possibly under the admin code, you'd use which ones? What is this section? 62 or 362 of state social services law to create that unit in the first place, which he has the authority to do. And he doesn't require legislation from the county legislature to give him authority to do that. Commissioner, I always forget whether it's 62 or 362. But that's the section that gives him the authority to appoint that group in the first place. So we might have to make an amendment to the administrative code. That's not that complicated to accomplish if that's what you want to do.
Okay, so Cindy,
No, I just wanted to say that I think this resolution, was discussed, and I think if I could just ask Commissioner Parker to just,
We don't have to do.
you know,
We don't have to.
state, are you comfortable with this resolution, or is this whole discussion going to move the program underneath the county attorney? What, I think your intent.
The first step is to establish a fourth attorney. And, you know, I think there's been discussion since I came here about moving legal under the county attorney's office. I think with the county attorney's work volume and his staffing in this past year, it's just not been possible. You know, it sounds like there may be some light at the end of the tunnel after the first quarter of 2014 in making that consideration to transferring the DFS legal.
But that's a discussion for maybe next month or something, but this particular fourth attorney that you're talking about, that we've had
And
discussion.
the fourth attorney is
Something
to
that we're
reinstate
addressing
the.
today.
This position.
attorney
Right, that's this
position.
resolution today.
At the same time, you know, then moving forward, if that position needed to be an assistant county attorney rather than the managing DFS attorney, that could be done.
Okay, so that
Yeah,
could be.
that could
done
always
at a
be
later
addressed in
date.
the
Right.
future. It doesn't have to be addressed right
So
now.
we're talking about this resolution today.
Okay, is there any other discussion regarding this resolution? Jonathan?
One is, once again, we're trying to shove something through where it doesn't belong. So that
But-
just needs to be said, but it is what it is. And
We
you know.
will do
The second is, I mean, we have heard nothing but month after month about the need for boots on the ground in DSS. Are we really spending a best use of our $100,000 on a managerial position when unfortunately we've had to make cuts over the years and now we're trying to get staffing to where we can direct impact people?
I mean, it's well documented in just in terms of repayment agreements. I can show you documents that where from 2007, the repayment agreements were at $1.2 million. The repayment agreements have to be looked at, reviewed, prepared by council. That work is
So
not
they
been
would
done.
be boots on the
So
ground looking into that.
It is boots on the ground. It is, you know, has a management title, but they will be filing petitions, liens, going after, there's $32 million in unpaid child support in this community. 18 million of it owed directly to the agency and or New York State, and 14 million owed to, you know, typically moms in Sullivan County.
So I think in
So
answer to your
it
question,
is
Jonathan, that
boots on
person
the
would be
ground work.
doing real
They're
work.
not caseworkers, supervising
Right.
people.
I would like to point something out. The position is a $23,000 county share. The additional is funded through DFS.
It's a civil
And I-
service legacy position
I
that once it's
also-
here, you can't get rid of it.
I also wanted to mention that through the Division of Health and Family Services for the 2014 budget reduction plan, Health and Family Services under Commissioner Parker has identified a total savings of $593,000. So I just wanted to point that out.
Is that county or state money? I'm just curious.
It's county, and that's in addition to $1
Didn't you see
million
that document?
I just wanna, I'm actually,
Reduction in
I
the
don't vote on
budget.
this committee today, but
Yeah.
one of the, I'll just make one more comment. One of the issues that I have is every department head and every commissioner in this building now is gonna say, you know, you cut my department by 2 or 3 or 4 bodies. A couple of years ago, we had to live within our means, and now the problem is we start reinstating people in your department. I understand you need it, but other departments are gonna have the same feeling. They're gonna start coming, well, can't you give me another body? I really need, I'm gonna save you X amount of dollars.
Didn't we just discuss
But-
this in the last
Yeah,
committee
this is
meeting?
not-
I mean, in 2014, our budget is $1.6
I'm
million
just saying that, I'm just saying,
less
I
than
just
it
wanted
is
to
in
make a comment that
2013.
everybody else has the same issues you have, and that's. I'm
And
glad
we
I'm-
are reinstating, to clarify, in other departments, bodies that we recognize
Some,
are
yeah.
needed. So,
Some.
in answer to
Some.
what you're saying, we have clarified and
Some.
allowed that in other departments. So, yes, Ira.
When was the last time this position was filled and when was it abolished?
We
And
abolished
I
it.
want you to clarify, because you made it sound we have filled existing positions. This position is no longer existing.
Not me,
So-
yeah.
So,
Mr. Mo-
I wanna, you know, you have to clarify that.
If I'm,
Janet, do you remember?
if
Janet, do you
I'm
remember?
correct, we just
2001.
created positions within parole department because we recognize that that would save money in putting people in jail and having them. So I do believe that we have created new positions in other departments. Maybe I'm incorrect in that, but didn't we just allow
You
that?
said filled.
Yeah.
When you
But
said
they were
filled, it
new
implies that it was a
positions.
position that's existing.
What are
This
your
is
concerns
creating.
with this position?
They were new positions within
Well, I
parole.
agree with Jonathan, first
Probation.
of all,
Promotion.
you, it
Sorry.
didn't go through, why is it in this position, not in personnel, number one, committee?
Well, you removed it out of yours because
I-
without, we didn't know. We didn't
And there
know.
was a reason for that, because we went into executive to discuss something, and it was discussion. But I don't see why this has to go through this month and not continue to. But
Well,
enough
the
that,
budget's coming up, so.
okay.
All right, is there any other discussion on this matter? All right, it's time to call for a vote. All in favor of this, resolution? Raise their hands.
I'm not on the committee.
Cora, Allen, Kitty,
Do
3.
you?
All opposed?
We get to vote next week.
2. It passes 3-2.
Thank you. It's time for public comment. Yes, Sandy?
I feel the need, I have to comment on this discussion on this last position. First, I have to tell Sam that the 9-month window, I have people who've been in,
know.
I've had people who've been in provisional positions for
I
5
know.
years with no test. So it's all
Okay,
great,
so I
it's all
really
great
said-
in Albany's
I really
eyes, but it
said
doesn't happen.
What the state requires of
Right,
it, that's true.
but it doesn't happen.
Yeah,
I can take
we
it
have a
in
guy
20
in
different
Fallsburg
people.
for 18 years now. Still-
Exactly, still provisional, right?
Yep.
No test. The second thing I need to talk about is, while you mentioned the boots on the ground and we need help in health and family services, you're 100% right. But for the 3 years that I've been in this position, I have heard nonstop from the CPS workers and the workers who have to write petitions, how dysfunctional it is that the way the business operates and how they have to get things to the attorneys. There is no witness prep. These people go in there blind. They don't know what questions are asked. If you have a face-to-face conversation with your client, and really, they are supposed to be on the same side, not against each other. They're working for the good of these children, okay? What they have is, they have information that they can't get out because the right questions aren't being asked, because they didn't have a face-to-face conversation with a lawyer to say, this is the situation that's going on. Everything's being done by email. There are very few times when anything occurs face-to-face. And the people who suffer are those children. This position is an absolute must.
Thank you.
I just asked, are the children suffering to Aunt Randy, and he said there was no issue
Well,
with the children.
No, I said they were not issues
No,
that I
Cindy.
thought should be discussed.
Discussed in public,
meeting.
right.
So maybe we should go into executive session.
Thank you, Sandy. Is there any other public comment? Okay, so I need a motion to adjourn. Jonathan,
Judges will
Alan?
listen, complain if there were issues.
Thank you. Thank you all for attending.
We should call them and ask the judges if they have an
Thanks.
issue.